David, I have a call for you. I'm just putting it through. All right, mate. Dave here. Listen, I know you've only come in to clean up the place, but I've got a bit caught up, so you're going to have to run the news tonight. Now, don't worry. It's not hard, and I'm going to stay on the phone and help you. First, I'm going to give you a quick tour of the broadcast room, so if you're not doing it already, look forwards towards all those screens. Right, look up at the top. That coloured bar is your audience. You want to keep the viewers going up and not down. Underneath that, you've got the screens. The one on the right is the broadcast screen. That's what the viewers are seeing at home. It's only a couple of seconds behind the master screen there in the middle. That's the one you control. Now, the four small screens on the left show the different signals coming from the studio, and you can choose between them using the numbered buttons on the vision mixer at the bottom left. Don't worry, I'll talk you through it and you'll pick it up in no time. Now, have a look to your left. These plugs control everything in the studio. I've left them set up for you, so provided you haven't fiddled with them, all you have to do now is throw the master trip switch and we're in business. Once you've got the power on, face the front again. You can see on the broadcast screen that we're in the end titles for the show before us. Fortunately, they go on for fucking ages, so there's plenty of time for me to explain. Oh, right, okay, they're over, so we haven't got long now till the broadcast. Right, quickly, mate, look down under the desk. You can see a load of videotapes on the left. They're your adverts. Pick any three and load them into the machines on the right. When you've done that, look up to the front again. Oh, that didn't actually take as long as I thought it would. So we've got a few seconds. I suppose I ought to warn you that tonight is, as I'm sure you know, election night, which means if we make any mistakes, by which I mean if you make any mistakes, we're getting fired. So stay on your toes, mate. You should be getting the signal any second now. When you get the signal, select screen 1 with the vision mixer and we're ready to go.
Prawn and mayonnaise?
You know seafood makes me go out on pustules.
Yeah, thought it might increase our view.
Every day. You offer me prawns every day.
That's how I show love.
You're trying to kill me.
And yet you persist. Going 5, 4.
But now, it's time to join Jeremy Donaldson.
Good evening. I'm Jeremy Donaldson. Our main stories tonight.
Okay,
Moving on
we're
up.
all good.
The election
Next
win
is going to be
that
the throw of
Essex
the
said
news
just couldn't
titles
happen.
on screen 2.
Hopeful or
There'll be a
hostile.
countdown, but I'll count you in as well.
Controversy
Just
over
relax, mate.
Corporation
It's all gravy.
Buys Honest Andy's Totally Independent and corners the flowered market. Top chat. Sports fans everywhere celebrate as popular footballer Johnny Hamsleeves wins Sports Personality of the Year. And a spoonful of sugar. Meghan will be chatting with movie star Lawrence Blunderclatch about his new movie, The Medicated. And, of course, we'll be going live to Advance headquarters to hear what the leaders of this fledgling party have to say on their historic year.
Right, button
That's
2
all coming up on
in
tonight.
3,
National
2,
Monthly News.
1, now. Lovely, mate. Next thing is to throw back to Jeremy with button 1 when that globe in the middle shrinks down and vanishes. Here it comes. Switch to screen 1 now. Lovely, mate.
The votes are in, and it's a decisive win for Advance. The landslide
Listen,
victory,
mate,
with
we
an
often get a bit of interference
81%
around this
of the
time of
popular
night,
vote,
so
is
keep
the
your eye
biggest
on the
election
machine
win
on the
in
bottom
living
right.
memory.
You can move that
Advance's
white
children
dot
have
up and
moved up and
down,
down the country
avoiding
with
the
their bold
interference
promises of
using the
permanent
yellow
change.
knob or your
But critics
scroll
have
wheel.
accused him of a severe lack of actual policies and of being deliberately vague. The opposition parties have all conceded defeat to Advance's overwhelming mandate, but have yet to appear publicly.
Right,
However,
it's going well.
former
All you've
Home
got to do
Secretary
now
Jeffrey
is
Jackson
play the advert at
has
the end of the
issued a statement
segment.
in which he
Make sure you don't play it
"We have
too
all
early or
been
we'll all
seduced by
get
the fiery
fired.
rapping
Now the
voice,
clock at
but
the
have yet
top
to
is
see the
counting you
content
down
of
to
the
the
vote.
advert. When
Sounds
it
like
reaches
sound
0,
against the music.
press one of the 3 play ad buttons over there at the bottom right. I normally play the first one at the first break and so on, but you can play them in any order you want. I'll count you into it as well, but keep your
And
eye
later in
on
the
the
programme,
clock.
we'll be going live to Advance HQ to hear the co-leader's acceptance speech.
And 3,
That's all coming
2,
up. After the
1,
break.
advert.
1 minute back, everybody. Jeremy,
I need you to fill after the ads.
What? Why?
Wanker Snatch is running late.
Oh,
I thought I'd ask him about the election.
personally, I wouldn't try to confuse him with any big words.
That's the same policy we use with you. I thought that was our little secret. He doesn't remember anything I tell him.
I'm deeply uncomfortable with your burgeoning friendship. Yeah.
A yellow, a purple. Neil's deals are unreal.
Wicked. We made it to the first ad break. You're doing great, mate. But this is where it starts getting a bit trickier. This next sequence is what we call a multicam sequence, because you're going to be cutting between multiple cameras to keep things interesting. A lot of it's down to personal taste, but here's 3 good rules of thumb. 1. Try and keep the shot on whoever is doing the talking. 2. Don't stay on the same shot for too long. 10 seconds at the most. So if you're on the person who's talking, try and throw in the odd reaction shot or pull out to the wide shot for a bit just to keep it interesting. 3. Don't stay on reaction shots for too long. A couple of seconds is usually enough. Then the audience want to see who's doing the talking, yeah? Stick to these rules and you'll be fine. It's not as complicated as it sounds. You've seen programs on television, haven't you? Make it look like those. Might as well get screen 1 selected now. No need to wait for the broadcast to start. Try and stay ahead, mate.
Crazy Neil's got crazy deals.
We're coming back from the break. Quiet in the studio.
Thank you so much.
10 seconds, everybody. Going in 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to the National Nightly News. Later, we'll be hearing from shock election winners Advance. But first
Get
off,
ready to go to
cultural
Megan on
reporter
screen 4.
Megan Wolf is here with a star of both stage and screen. Megan?
Thank you, Jeremy. Megan Wolf, culture correspondent. And today I have a guest who starred in everything from Shakespeare
Right,
to
go
the
to
Shot
Blunderclatch
Clock
on screen 3 when she says his
Joined
name.
today by none other than Lawrence Blunderclatch. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, my dear, I do hope you believe me when I tell you that being with you here today is among
Switch to
the...
2 for the wide now.
May I say, having you here with us is among ours.
Right, now just try and
So
stay
you
on
just
whoever's
finished filming
talking.
your latest movie, which is called The Medicated.
The medicated, yes.
Wow, what was that like?
Well, as I said to Peter at the Wrap, that's Peter Jensen, the director.
Give us a look at Megan's reaction.
He's a
Lovely.
wonderful chap,
Now back to
really
Thunder
is.
Twat.
I've worked with him on several movies, all terribly successful. I said to Peter, what a wild ride this has been. And do you know what, Megan? I really meant that.
Wow, that is fantastic. And am I right in saying that the character you play in this movie is quite an academic one?
Absolutely right. A scientist.
Was that a challenge at all?
What exactly are you implying? But seriously, yes, you're right. It was a complete departure from my last starring role when I played Sergeant Brock Rockman in Bullet Man. You'll remember that that was the true story of one soldier's fight for a love that surpasses all others. A love, of course, for freedom. I think it's grossed over $1 billion, but honestly, who's counting?
It's a role that saw you scoop 2 Best Actor awards, if I remember correctly.
It's so sweet of you to mention it, but I really am not in it for the awards, although those 3 little statues do take pride of place on my mantelpiece.
With all the others, I'm sure. So, if you're not doing it for the awards, what is it then that drives you?
That is a beautiful question, Megan, and not easy to answer. Like you, I'm afraid. Cut me, and I will bleed. And often, that's how it feels, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Bleeding, giving, suffering for one's audience. I suppose in the end, I do it for the difference it makes. I do it for the people that I inspire, the little people. But most of all, I think I do it for the positive change that I can bring about in the world.
And today, of course, we're in for some real change, it looks like, in the coming few months. What do you make of this historic election result?
Oh, well. Well, now you're asking. Historic election result. Indeed, historic is the word. Well, it's difficult, isn't it? Very difficult. But
Been on that shot a bit long.
I think I've always been quite clear that when it comes to politics, one should always strive to not fuck things up.
Shit, he swore. Oh, well, don't worry, you won't do it again.
Sorry, I said fuck.
Shit, you did it again.
really-
Okay,
I'm
don't
sorry.
panic. I'll explain how to deal with swearing at the
From
break.
The Medicated, which opens next week.
Right,
around
they've
the
swapped the
country.
shot of Jeremy on
Details
screen
what's
one for
going
a VT of the movie clip. You'll get a countdown
This
on
is
the
a really
screen,
pivotal
but I'd
scene
just let Megan cue you in.
My character, Dr. Lance Hemlock, is faced with a decision that could affect humanity's very survival.
Exciting stuff. Let's take a look.
Watch out for that interference, mate.
I don't understand it.
Oh, looks like Blunder Clatch is losing it in the studio. I'd love to hear what he's saying, but don't switch to it now. You can go to the archive when the broadcast's done. We keep everything.
I don't know that.
No, Lance, we mustn't. Think of Carol.
It's Dr. Lance to you, Miss Flanagan.
Did it for you, baby. All for you.
Dr. Hemlock.
We're gonna change the world, do you remember? Go on there, listen to me.
Dr. Hemlock.
You told me, but I didn't listen.
Doctor,
I'm drowning, Lance, you said.
you need to see this.
No, it's all too late.
Look at this!
The virus. The sterility. This formula. This is the key.
We can stop it all.
At the end of the clip, you'll want to play another ad. Remember to use the clock at the top to count you in.
If we should.
Right, I guess I better explain how to deal with bleeping out swear words. As you've probably noticed, the broadcast screen, here, is about 2 seconds behind the master screen, here. When someone says a naughty word, the bleep button lights up, like this. 2 seconds later, you'll hear that swear word going out on the broadcast, and you need to hold down the bleep button or the spacebar on your keyboard for as long as the swear word lasts. It can take a bit of practice getting used to hearing 2 things at once. Just stay calm and you'll get it. And if you can't tell when to bleep, just above the button, you'll literally be able to see the sound scrolling by. All you gotta do is hold it down while the red bit is over the red line. Simple. Of course, if you do it by eye, you'll have to take your eye off the screens. That's why real professionals do it by ear. Most people like to have the volume of the broadcast screen a little bit below the master screen. Let's set it now.
These potentially true statistics.
As you turn it up, you'll hear the advert getting louder. Good. You're set to start censoring. Like I say, it takes a little practice, but I'll try and help you through it, and soon we'll have you bleeping like a pro. Remember, button lights up, count 1, 2, and hold it down. Remember to select screen 1 now that you've got the feed. Don't wait for the broadcast to go live. That's too late. You can use the number buttons on your keyboard, 1 to 4.
Welcome back. And I'm told we can now go live to Advance Headquarters, where the 2 leaders, Peter Clement and Julia Salisbury, are about to make their acceptance address.
Cut to the outside broadcast.
Go for it, Pat.
Get ready to bleep.
Well, thank you all for coming, and, well, where do I start? What a day.
They said we couldn't do it.
They certainly did.
They used every dirty, low-down, lying, southern bastard trick they had against us. But you, the people, you saw right through their shite.
I'm sorry about the language there.
Sorry about that. I've had a couple of celebratory pints. Makes me coarser than the granny's fanny.
Memorably put.
Nailed it.
But to be honest, who can blame Peter for celebrating? Throughout the campaign, you've heard us say that Advance are not a political party. A party's what you have when things are going well. When the country is suffering, you don't need a party. You need a team. A team that can change things. But today is day 1 of a new future. A better, fairer future. So perhaps we should all be celebrating.
Except for the rich. For them, the party's over. They shouldn't be celebrating. They should be putting their shitting pants on and opening their dusty checkbooks.
Again, colourfully put, but not inaccurate. Before we came out here to address the nation, we used our executive powers to pass the Assets and Wealth Act. Working with the tax office, we have produced a definitive list of every person in the country with wealth into the millions.
You know the sort. Probably you rather you don't. Because the likes of you and me are not welcome in their gated communities.
Tomorrow, we will be introducing a sweeping reform of the tax system in this country. No more hiding wealth offshore, no more trust funds or creative accounting. A simpler, fairer, unavoidable set of tax laws.
So, all you bastard public school snobs have got nowhere to hide. And earlier today, we revoked your passports. You want them back? You want to leave like you threatened before the election? That's fine. But first, you're going to pay up. You're going to pay back.
Advance are going to turn this country from a nation of warring individuals into a team, to properly fund health and education, to raise the living standards of us all.
The pundits said we'd have to raise billions, but you'll see when we've reclaimed what's ours, that's absolute ferret shite. So to you posh twats.
The people who pay you a pittance to serve them drinks in their private clubs, the people whose children you raise.
So they've got time to get even fucking richer.
Advance have this to say to you.
It ends today.
We are coming for your sports cars and your mansions and your vineyards.
It ends today.
We will put the wealth of this country back where it should have always been, in the hands of the people who created it.
It ends today.
Yes, it ends today. And tomorrow, we'll start making it fair again, just like we promised we would.
And until then, ladies and gents, I suggest we all get pissed.
I can't argue with that. Thank you for your time.
Well, an interesting acceptance speech there from the leaders of Advance. And our apologies for the fruity language. Hopefully we got that bleeped out for you in time. If not, someone's going to be in trouble. So, as the country braces itself for new government, that's all from us this evening at the National Nightly News. We'll be back tomorrow with full coverage of the first day under Advance. I'm Jeremy Donaldson. Have a peaceful night.
Right, looks like you've got it now. Thanks for all the help, mate. I've got to go. Ferry's about to leave. Probably won't be coming back. Job's yours, mate. Good luck.
Same old boring politics then.
Is this some weird fever dream? Am I dying now or something?
You should be so lucky. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Not coming for a drink?
No, got a date.
Lucky you. Try not to get murdered.
Week by week, and very soon you'll...
I thought you'd end up here. Most people come into the archive room when they're done with a broadcast. That way you can see what you did and how it looked to the public. As you can see, there's 3 sections to the archive. Broadcasts, that's what you've put out. Rushes, which is all the stuff that was on all the screens. And adverts, which is any advert that you've chosen to show. So let's have a look at the broadcasts. Okay, on the left you can see all the broadcasts that you've done. You can also get to hear from the main menu if you don't actually want to do a broadcast, you just want to see some of your past work. Select any of those and click Load Tape. Why not watch what you just did? When you're done, hit back.
Well, in a few moments, we'll be going live to tonight's National Nightly News. But before that, let's take a look at what's coming up later on tonight on Channel 1. At 7 o'clock, it's the semi-final of the quotation game, and it's a nail-biting quiz tonight as a team of nuclear physicists take on 4 old ladies from East Grinching. That's followed at 8 p.m. by award-winning documentary series The Shape of Now, which tonight looks at the history of the knee-length sock and its importance during the Great Blackouts of 1871. Not one to miss. At 9 p.m, sit back and relax with multiple award-winning movie The Freedom of Being Colin, taking us all the way up to 11:15, where, as usual, Dr. Adrian Atkinson Blimey will be grilling his guests in Incisors, and tonight sees a return for leading economist Katie Brightman. Finally, at midnight, it's the National Weather Report, before we say good night until tomorrow. But now, it's time to join Jeremy Donaldson for the National Nightly News.
Good evening, I'm Jeremy Donaldson. Our main stories tonight. Moving on up, the election win that experts said just couldn't happen. Hopeful or hostile? Controversy as global mega corporations...
Right, click on rushes and let's have a look at those. Okay, these 4 screens, they're exactly the same as the 4 screens that feed you the studio signal when you're doing the actual news. Of course, the difference here is you can mute any screen you like or any combination of screens and you can have a listen to what was going on behind the scenes. Just select any segment, that's any bit between ad breaks over on the left, and hit play. When you're done checking out the backstage secrets, hit back.
These aren't my cards. Please tell me these aren't my cards.
No, they're the right ones, apparently.
But this gives me nothing, Jenny. They must see that.
Oh no, I think they think you won't have anything to say.
Oh, for God's sake, come on. It's a huge day. He's not an...
Absolute bonehead. I don't care, Rob. I'm not doing it. I agreed to do one BC interview a day. I made that completely clear when we started. Check my contract.
Hi, I'm Megan.
Oh, piss off. You're on thin, bloody ice, Rob. Whole wheat, man. Whole wheat.
We're coming back from the break. Quiet in the studio.
Thank you so much.
10 seconds, everybody. Going in 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to the National Nightly News. Later we'll be hearing from shock election winners Advance, but first our very own culture reporter Megan Wolf is here with a star of both stage and screen. Megan?
Thank you, Jeremy. Megan Wolf, culture correspondent. And today I have a guest who starred in everything from Shakespeare to the Shotbot films. I'm very excited to be joined today by none other than Lawrence Blunderclatch. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, my dear. I do hope you believe me when I tell you that being with you here today is among the greatest joys of my life.
May I say, having you here with us is among ours.
Bless you.
So you've just finished filming your latest movie, which is called The Medicated.
The Medicated, yes.
Wow, what was that like?
Well, as I said to Peter at the Wrap, that's Peter Jensen, the director. Do you know him? He's a wonderful chap, he really is. I've worked with him on several movies, all terribly successful. I said to Peter, what a wild ride this has been. And do you know what, Megan? I really meant that.
Wow, that is fantastic. And am I right in saying that the character you play in this movie is quite an academic one?
Absolutely right. A scientist.
Was that a challenge at all?
What exactly are you implying? But seriously, yes, you're right. It was a complete departure from my last starring role when I played Sergeant Brock Rockman in Bullet Man. You'll remember that that was the true story of one soldier's fight for a love that surpasses all others. A love, of course, for freedom. I think it's grossed over $1 billion, but honestly, who's counting?
It's a role that saw you scoop 2 Best Actor awards, if I remember correctly.
It's so sweet of you to mention it, but I really am not in it for the awards, although those 3 little statues do take pride of place on my mantelpiece.
With all the others, I'm sure. So, if you're not doing it for the awards, what is it then that drives you?
Oh, that is a beautiful question, Megan, and not easy to answer. Like you, I'm afraid. Cut me, and I will bleed. And often, that's how it feels, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Bleeding, giving, suffering for one's audience. I suppose in the end, I do it for the difference it makes. I do it for the people that I inspire, the little people. But most of all, I think I do it for the positive change that I can bring about in the world.
And today, of course, we're in for some real change, it looks like, in the coming few months. What do you make of this historic election result?
Oh, well. Well, now you're asking. Historic election result. Indeed, historic is the word. Well, difficult, isn't it? Very difficult. But I think I've always been quite clear that when it comes to politics, one should always strive to not fuck things up.
Yes, well...
Sorry, I said fuck.
No.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
Lawrence, I believe you brought in a clip from The Medicated, which opens next week around the country. Lawrence, do tell us what's going on here.
I'd be delighted. This is a really pivotal scene where my character, Dr. Lance Hemlock, is faced with a decision that could affect humanity's very survival.
Exciting stuff. Let's take a look.
And we're out.
Rob, get the car, we're out of here.
Mr. Blundercatch.
No! I'm shutting this down. What kind of operation? I don't understand it. Running.
Mr. Blundercatch, I understand you're upset, but we can...
I don't understand. Rob! I'll be at the doorstep. Send up a bottle of scotch and a whole ham. It's in my contract.
It's not your fault.
You think I don't know that?
I'm sorry. I just had to. I had to. Go on then.
Lawrence, we mustn't.
What? Told you so.
It's Dr. Lance T.
Your hair looked nice.
Flanagan.
See, this is why you're single.
Did it for you, baby. All for you.
Dr. Hemlock.
I'm gonna change.
Prawn and mayonnaise?
You know seafood makes me go out in pustules.
Yeah, thought it might increase our viewing figures.
Every day. You offer me prawns every day.
10 seconds, everybody. That's how I show love.
You're trying to kill me.
And yet you persist. Going in 5, 4.